Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope you all are fine. As you know, we are doing chapter number 19, Behavior. So, our today's topic is innate behavior. So, dear students, innate behavior is a behavior you are born with. Means there is no need to learn this kind of behavior because it is predetermined and it is already in your genes and it is inherited in your genes. It also be defined as behaviors which results from genetically determined neural programs that are a part of the nervous system at the time of birth or develop at an appropriate point in maturation. So according to this definition, the characteristics which are specifically innate, they are in the genetically modified form, and these are the determined means the preset neural programs which are controlled by the nervous system somehow. Innate behavior is genetically determined. This point is very important and you have to keep it in your mind because it is controlled by the genes. Here are some examples of the innate behavior. For example, bird building a nest and spider winning a web. Both these types of organisms have this instinctive behavior when they are born and it is not taught to them. The bird already knows how to build a nest because it was in its genes. Similarly, the spider knows how to win a web, and nobody has taught the spider to do so. Then, the importance of innate behavior is that it is important for the survival of especially those animals that have short lifespan and poorly developed nervous coordination. So it means the organisms whose lifespan is very less and their nervous system is not very developed, they will run their lives with this kind of behavior which was already present in their genes. All plant behaviors are innate in nature because plants cannot teach anyone or they cannot be taught how to perform the activities during their lifetime. For example, the movement of certain parts of the plant towards or away from certain reflexes or stimulus. Instinctive behavior of animal has specific response to a particular stimulus, and in this no higher center of nervous system is involved. The animal is able to adapt to his environment. As a result, survival value of the species is increased. It means it is built in an organism how to adapt to its environment, and obviously it would increase the survival value of an organism who knows how to adapt to the specific environmental conditions. Then comes the types of innate behavior. One is orientation behavior, that is directional, and the other is non-directional or non-orientation behavior. First of all, orientation behavior is when an animal moves or changes its position or alignment relative to a point or towards specific directions in response to some stimulus is known as orientation behavior. And it has three types: taxis, tropisms, and kinesis. Taxis is the movement of an organism or a cell in response to a stimulus. It is a directional movement, and the example of this type of behavior is bacteria, insects, and protists. Then second type is kinesis, which is also a movement of an organism or a cell in response to a stimulus, but it is a non-directional or random movement, and its examples are insects and arthropods. Then comes the tropisms. Tropism is a growth or turning movement of an organism in response to a stimulus, and its examples are plants or plant parts. Second is the non-orientation behavior. In this type of behavior, animals do not show particular movement in response to a stimulus. These are much more complex than orientation behaviors, and the examples are reflexes and instincts. We will talk about them one by one. First of all, tropism, as you know, are the growth movements which are related to directional stimuli, and there are different types of tropic behaviors, that is phototropism and geotropism. Phototropism is the response of the plant parts towards the light intensity, which will be observed by the shoots of the plant that will grow towards a source of light but away from the direction of gravity. And negative phototropism is the response shown by the roots, which respond by bending away from the light source, and the roots will grow towards the source of gravity. Then comes the geotropism. Of course, it is the response towards the gravity. Here is the diagram of the positive phototropism and negative phototropism, in which the parts of the plant which grow towards the source of light and the parts of the plant which grows away from the source of light. Here is an example of the geotropism. Again, it has two types, positive and negative. The leaves and the shoots show the negative geotropism, whereas the roots shows the positive geotropism. Then comes kinesis. As we have discussed, it is the movement of an organism or a cell in response to a stimulus, and it is also the random movement or the non-directional movement. In the diagram, you can see the kinesis as we have talked, these are non directional and random movements. So, the curve shown here is random and non directional, and where the organism will show the fast movement, little turning has been shown, and where the slow movement, many turns has been shown. This kinesis behavior is observed by the wood lice. Difference between the kinesis and taxis is very important and you need to know about it. Now, if we talk about the non-directional behavior, it has two types again. One is the reflexes and the other one is called instincts. Reflex is an automatic, involuntary response which is not under the control of your conscious or your nervous system, and the responses to change occurs inside or outside the body that usually does not involve the brain. Some reflexes involves the brain while others do not necessarily involve the brain. For example, in the bright light, the pupil of your eye will contract. You cannot stop this reflex, and this is not in your control. In the same way, when the food touches the lining of the windpipe, it will set off a coughing reflex, which is again not in your control. Then the startle reflexes, which has been shown by different insects, and this startle response or reflex has been observed in newborn babies as well. So this response is triggered by small disturbance as well as more comprehensive escape reflexes triggered by larger disturbances. So for example, if you knock the sheet on which a snail was put, the snail would show a startle reflex by stopping itself from moving forward. Or when you suddenly try to make noise in front of the newborn baby, the baby would start crying. This is also the startle response. Then we will talk about instincts, which are unlearned but inherited fixed patterns of responses or reactions to certain kinds of stimuli. Again, these are genetically programmed and they are referred to as fixed action patterns. Instincts are complex behavior patterns which are not understood so far, and the entire body participates in the instinctive behavior. Now, if we see the instinctive behavior shown by salmon fish, salmon fishes are the female fishes which builds the nests in the upper river side and deposits the eggs of the fish. The male salmon fish moves along side and deposits his sperm over the eggs. This process is known as the spawning behavior. The salmon die within a few days of spawning. The newly hatched fish live the first part of their lives in the fresh water, and then they will migrate to the ocean to spend their adult lives, which is an instinctive behavior, and no one has taught the newborn fishes to migrate to the ocean to spend their lives. Migration of the fish between fresh water and salt water occurs during every season of the year. And this behavior is shown when they reach the sexual maturity. There is a type of Pacific salmon which may swim hundreds and even thousands of miles to get back to the stream where they hatch. This is all about today's lecture. If you have any kind of question, you can ask. Thank you so much.